Live from Orlando, Florida, you're listening to The Sports Scene with Jesse O.
Oh, smell the pork and call me Brian. Yep, it's me, Jesse O. Welcome, everyone, to The Sports Scene on iHeartRadio, iHeartRadio Podcasts, and YouTube. Presented by First Bet and Sports Fluent Media. We've got a great show for you. Our special guest is the resident big man of the show. He's a former NBA center and a former NBA coach for pretty much more years than I've been alive. Coach Paul Mokeski, who joins me in just a sec because we do not have a top 5 sports stories for this week. I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize, but got a lot going on. So in lieu of those top 5 sports stories, we're going to have a bunch of really good top 5 sports stories next week. Max and Alvin, obviously, will be back with me, and we'll have so much more fun with our guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. We got a good slew of guests on deck that you don't want to miss. But first, please stay tuned for the rest of this episode because Coach Paul Mokeski and I go into our second round recap of the NBA playoffs. Keep in mind, we actually recorded this just on Monday. So that means a lot of stuff has happened since then as you're now listening to this on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. or wherever you are listening to this after that. Coach Mo will join me every single time a series ends, so don't worry. We got a lot more NBA talk on the way. But first, we'll take a commercial break, and please enjoy the rest of the episode where I am joined by our big man, Coach Paul Mokeski. Oh, baby. Welcome back to the Sports Scene, everyone. For our second segment, I am joined by the big man of the show, a regular on the Sports Scene, my favorite big man maybe in the entire world, former Milwaukee Bucks center and NBA coach, Paul Mokeski, joins the Sports Scene now for Coach Mo's Corner. Big Mo in the building. Coach, so good to have you with me as always. It is time to get into our conference semifinal, our second round recap of the NBA playoffs. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Our brackets, Milwaukee messed up my brackets. My heart messed up my brackets, but we were doing okay for a while.
Yeah, we were doing well for a sec, and then, a monkey wrench got thrown into our plans a little bit. So let's start off with the Eastern Conference first. We're going to start off with the most basic series where the Boston Celtics beat the Cleveland Cavaliers 4-1 en route to another conference finals over in the Eastern Conference. Now, the Celtics were our pick to pretty much win it all in our entire bracket. Do you still think that's the case? I mean, they have injuries like every team has, but they've been able to capitalize on it, and Al Horford coming in for Kristaps Porzingis has seemed to work pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Horford was their starting center last year, so he fits right in. He's a veteran, but he was unconscious in the last game. I mean, come on, man. He's knocking down threes and jumping in the air and saving balls. But as far as Boston moving on and winning it all this year, it's the biggest ability is availability, and it goes with Boston also. It's Porzingis. They've had time to rest. Is he going to be healthy? Because there's a lot of teams now. I mean, let's face it. They beat the Cavs, in 5? A gentleman's sweep?
They beat the Cavs in 5, yep.
Yeah, but who wasn't available for the last 2 games?
Donovan Mitchell.
Donovan Mitchell, their best player. Who wasn't available for the whole series?
Jared Allen, their second best player.
Their starting center. So it would have been probably a 7-game series if they're healthy, and then Boston probably pulls it out in 7. But people are banged up. They took care of Cleveland, got them out of the way, and got some rest and getting ready for their next round. So, I feel less confident now of the Celtics if Porzingis is not healthy anymore.
Yeah, well, so the average stat line for Al Horford in this series, 11.5 points per game, 0.7 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 1 blocked shot. And his stat line in Game 5, 22 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks. That's really stepping up to the moment, Coach.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, Jesse, that in a 7-game series in the NBA, stars usually do what stars are going to do, all stars, right? But the role players are the guys that need to step up, and they win games in a series and win series. And that's what Horford did for them. With Donovan Mitchell out, they didn't need him as much, but, he stepped up huge. And there's a role guy that's been on the bench, probably playing, 10, 12 14 minutes a game, 15 when Porzingis was healthy, and now he plays 33 and comes up huge. Those are the guys. When you look at all these series, Jess, those role guys are the guys that are going to step up or fall apart,
shrink,
like we saw the other night, and crap in the bed, and then your team loses. So Horford stepped up huge and at a right time, and that's going to happen for the rest of the series going forward.
One thing I'm kind of interested to see just in the offseason is what direction the Cleveland Cavaliers go with Donovan Mitchell, right? Because like you were saying, the best ability in the NBA is availability. And while he was playing, Cleveland looked like a championship contender. Obviously, they were missing their starting center in Jared Allen, but Donovan Mitchell posted 29.6 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists per game in 10 playoff games this year. And obviously, he was nursing that calf ailment that kept him out of games 4 and 5. It was a really anticlimactic way to end that series. But still, is that something you think that people are going to be talking about? Because he's been pretty banged up the last couple of years, and he hasn't really been able to be that available for these teams that are making the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take a step back if you're in the front office of the Cavs, right? You got to think, okay, it didn't end the way we wanted. Donovan Mitchell's hurt. Allen's hurt. We brought him in for a reason. He was with Boston. We brought him in as a 7-foot rim protector. So let's rewind this a little bit. Let's slow down.
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell's healthy. Allen's healthy.
Yes.
And we move a guy that moved up. Mobley was a star.
Yeah.
At the end of that series. So we moved Mobley from the 5 to the 4 and put him next to Allen with Garland and Mitchell as the backcourt. And we have one of the strongest starting fives in the league, just like Denver did before this, Minnesota series, but they won a championship like that. So we got to wait. Let's wait a minute and think. But you know what, Jesse, it's so hard now in the NBA because as a GM, even as a coach, you don't know who you're going to have. I mean, Giannis has been hurt in the last 2 playoffs over the last 2 years.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard. So do you just drop them and move on because you think they're going to be hurt? That's a tough decision.
It really is. So, Coach, let's move on to the other series in the conference semifinals in the Eastern Conference. It was a Game 7, and it was a really good Game 7. The Pacers and the Knicks, where the Pacers outlasted the short-handed Knicks 4-3 in this series. By all expectations, I think the Knicks definitely overachieved of what we saw and where we thought they would be. And, just at the end of the day, they were just too banged up. Do you think that it was more about the lack of, staying healthy for the Knicks, or do you think the Pacers earned that series?
It was both. So
yeah,
Indiana, remember, we talked months ago at the beginning of the year in the in-season tournament here in Las Vegas. Indiana won that tournament, and everyone was saying they're going to win. No one can stop them. They scored. They're long. No one can stop them, but they had a rocky season. But now they're stepping up and feeling and Halliburton's playing like he should. He's kind of non-existent. So they earned it, and they did a great job, and they had to go into the Garden and win Game 7. However, the Knicks were a shell of themselves, and then Brunson breaks his hand. So you know how many starters they had from the beginning of the season? 0.
Yeah, none.
So, I was sitting here watching like everyone forgot. I mentioned it around trade deadline. The New York Knicks picked up this guy named Alex Burks.
He was electric off the bench. He was the only reason they were going to be in that game after OG Anunoby went out after playing 5 minutes.
I'm sitting here watching him going, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
6 for 8.
He's making money for his next contract.
Yeah.
Someone's going to say, hey, I want that guy that can come in and score like that. And that's what happened. But, you're minus all your guys, and then, you don't have a big anymore. Randall's been hurt. Brunson's been superstar, but then he breaks his hand. DiVincenzo scores like 38. He's making everything. So, everybody says that, they were run down and everything. Well, when you lose all those starters, who else are you going to play? And how many minutes are you going to play them if you're going to be competitive? And, they did a good job. They just, they ran out of bodies. You run out of bodies, who else are you going to put out there? So, it's unfortunate. I think it would have been an awesome, even with Brunson stayed healthy for Game 7, it would have been an interesting ending because I think they cut it to 6 or 8 there for a minute. And then I'm sitting here watching TV going, why is Brunson on the bench? Where is he? He's not on the bench. Where is he? He broke his hand.
He's in the locker room.
It's so
trying to sideswipe the ball and then broke his hand on Halliburton.
And that happens a lot. When you reach for the ball like
really?
that, you hit an arm, you hit a leg, you hit something, and it'll break your hand or a finger easy. So, I think Indiana, thank goodness they won because Boston would have won in 3. They wouldn't even have to play game 4.
Yeah, exactly.
They said, hey, wait a minute.
They had no shot. They wouldn't even play the series.
Yeah, pull the plug.
Just simulate them to the finals.
Yeah, but Indiana is, when you look at the rosters, without Porzingis, Boston's not as deep as they're supposed to be. Indiana, that series could go 7.
Well, Indiana, I mean, they're a pain in the ass to defend. They have this relentless pace. They push the ball. They had great ball movement, and their player movement is also incredible. They actually, Coach, here's a little stat for you. The Pacers 123.8 points per 100 possessions over the 7 games in this series against the Knicks was the 6th best mark for any team in any playoff series in the 28 years for which we have play-by-play data.
Wow. Crazy. And I agree.
Wow.
The two teams that push the ball like that, Denver, when they outlet it and inbound it quickly, and Indiana inbounds it quickly but short, and then Halliburton, someone is not afraid to throw that thing up. And
no.
Even when they were up a lot in Game 7, they were still pushing the ball, and that puts pressure not only on your defense, get the hell back, but also on your offense because you're taking a shot going, this better go in or we got problems.
Yeah. So, okay, now let's move over. Actually, no, before we move over to the Western Conference, Coach, you know what? Actually, no. We're going to talk about the Western Conference first, and then we're going to go into our picks for the next 2 series. So, let's go over to the Western Conference, Coach. The Mavericks beat the Thunder in 6 games. Actually, we got this one to a T. Mavericks beating the Thunder in 6. We were talking about how in the playoffs, experience matters. OKC being the second youngest team in this entire league this year, while they were great and they had the MVP or, back up to the MVP by some, people's voting in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Chet Holmgren was also great as well. I love the way Lou Dort played in this series, but you and I have talked about the additions of Isaiah Lively and PJ Washington to this Dallas Mavericks squad, and they have proved to kind of push them over the top. The veteran presence of Kyrie Irving and the young stud of Luka Doncic, they get it done in 6 games. What'd you like about this series?
And Gafford. They added Gafford too.
Yeah.
Right. So, and we talked about this, when they made those moves. So 2 years ago, Kyrie, Luka, do they fit? We don't know if they fit. Who holds the ball? We don't know who gets the last shot. But really, their downfall was their depth and their size.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, and this is bad because I don't know who the GM of Dallas is, but he did a great job in getting Lively, PJ, and Gafford.
Yeah.
So now Kleber, Powell, those were guys that were starting last year playing. They don't even hardly play anymore. And these guys are bouncy, athletic, can catch lobs and dunk it and block shots. So that's exactly what Dallas needed. And now Kyrie and Luka figured it out. They're like best buddies now, right? They're hugging, crying. So they figured it out. And OKC has young players, but they also have a young coach. He's like 39 years old. He used to be a video guy. He used to be a video guy in Florida. Then he came with the coaching to OKC.
Yep.
Then he coached in the G League for a while, won a championship, I think. But he's still only 39 years old. So they were young on the court and on the bench. So we talk about this, Jess. I mean, I have Dallas as my
they're your dark horse.
They're my dark horse because they can move on. They could be in the finals. And if Boston does beat Indiana, they're going to be beat up because Indiana is going to run on them.
Yeah.
And then if Boston and Porzingis doesn't get healthy, I got Dallas winning the whole thing.
I mean, you did say that when we were filling out our bracket. I just, wish we listened to your heart a little bit more in the Western Conference because you wanted to pick the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I said that's probably not smart because Denver is the reigning champion. How can you go against them? And then we shouldn't have listened to your heart in the Eastern Conference and just said the Bucks are getting bounced first round. So, we know for next year, though, right?
Yeah. But I figured it out, right? We talked it out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough series. 7 games we talked about, then going back to Denver in the altitude, right?
Yeah.
And I had Denver winning in Game 7. However, I didn't think that Gordon would score 4 points and get 2 rebounds. Portis Jr. would score 7 and would score 5. They didn't have any. None. I just said that, Jess.
Yeah.
Without your role guys stepping up, and they crap the bed. Gordon, Porter Jr., Caldwell Pope, all crap the bed.
Well, the guys outside of Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray hit, 7 shots, 7 field goals in total.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, you look
Isn't that crazy?
You look at Porter Jr. had like 28 in the game before, and Aaron had like 35, so those guys didn't step up. And let's face it, the new face of the league, Anthony Edwards was horrible.
He was terrible.
1 for 7 and 4 points in the first half. And here's what happened. So your guys, that are hanging in there, all your guys on your team kept the game close enough. Even though you're playing terrible, they kept the game close enough, 15 points at halftime, that when you did make a couple big threes and all that it mattered and you won the game. Huge.
I mean, the thing with me was that, and by the way, it was actually 8 field goals, but still 8 field goals made by guys not named Jokic or Murray is pretty pathetic. Michael Porter Jr. didn't show up this series, really, in my opinion. That was one thing. Yeah. The second thing was, and you and I have talked defense before, and we're actually, after the finals, we're going to break down some footage together of the finals. So that'll be a very much a big YouTube thing that we're going to do is Coach Mo's Corner. We're doing footage, and we're breaking down the finals and the defensive schemes and everything. Why were the Nuggets switching everything? Because that would, in the first couple of games, it puts Jamal Murray at a disadvantage because now Ant Edwards has him one-on-one, or now he's matched up against Cat because they've screened whoever's on Cat off of him, and now Jamal Murray is either guarding Cat or Rudy Gobert and gets put in the bucket every time. I don't understand why they were switching everything. Why not just go under the screen?
And they were switching a lot, but they started the game. They started the series, the game with Murray guarding, the big guy.
Not Cat. Gobert.
Yeah, Cat. No, Cat, he was guarding Cat in the post.
Yeah, that was not great.
I'm telling you, I could call it, right?
Yeah.
You know what this is right here?
No.
That's 4 down.
Yeah.
That's 4 down, the Minnesota play. 4 down. I saw my guy, Chris Finch, doing this. And you know what that means? That means get the hell out and feed it to Cat.
And one-on-one Cat against Murray. Yeah. 4 down low.
Watch that in the next series. I watched it. I was watching with friends there. I said, they're posting up Cat. How do you know that? I mean, because it's 4 down. Look
4 down. He's the 4.
That's what I did for a living for a while, scouted. But, I don't know why. And they put, their smalls on Gobert. I can kind of understand that because if you get the hands out of Cat's hands and Anthony Edwards' hands and make Gobert make offensive plays, that's not a bad strategy. But you can't guard Cat with a little dude. That don't work.
I was thinking there's no D in Timberwolves, but there is an S for stops, and that's what the Wolves did to win this series. Obviously,
how many times did Anthony Edwards just take the ball from Murray at half court?
It was so many. Murray scored 35 points in Game 7, which was easily his best, but he only 6 points is what he gave us in the fourth quarter, though. Isn't that crazy?
They look scared.
Yeah,
they
just look banged up.
We've talked about this before. They have some of the most actions. They move, they back cut, they swing, they flare, and in the second half, they just stop moving.
Yeah,
and hoping somebody like Murray or Luka, the Joker can bail them out, and it gets stagnant, and that's why those other role guys couldn't score because they weren't moving. But how many backdoors did Aaron get in other games? All the backdoor dunk, short corner dunk, they took
his presence above the rim completely out of the equation in this series. You usually see Aaron Gordon getting offensive rebounds and then offensive putbacks, dunks, whatever. They completely schemed Aaron Gordon out of this series.
And here, I don't know if they did it because I wasn't watching close enough, but I know in the second half, you know who was guarding Murray? Ant. Anthony Edwards was all over him. He said, I got him. And that's big, and that's going to be interesting in this next series, because he's going to be on Luka. Let's see. He's big enough. Luka's bigger than him. He's more athletic. It's going to be an interesting matchup. But he scared Murray, I think. He took the ball from him and dunked it. Murray looked like a kid being scared out there for a while.
One thing you did also say was that all these other teams do not have the size to stop Jokic. And you did say Minnesota has the size. And that's what they use to exploit both the 4 and the 5 position of the Denver Nuggets in Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. They just completely schemed Gordon out of that final game. And we were talking about role players as well. When they needed it, the role players stepped up until the fourth quarter. The role players carried the weight for that Minnesota Timberwolves team. So Anthony Edwards could come down, hit that crucial 3 at the end of the game to seal it.
McDaniels, 23 points. Conley, 10 points, 8 rebounds.
Their entire starting 5 scored double figures.
Reed, 11, and the tip dunk huge. Gobert hits a Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway.
That was the craziest thing. I did not expect that in Gobert's game. You absolutely know you're cooked. Welcome back to the Sports Scene, everyone. For our third segment, I'm joined by Coach Mo. We're right in the middle of our talks about the NBA playoffs here, so don't go anywhere. We got you covered. Let's move on to now the conference finals round. So 2 great game 7s that we saw, on, Sunday night. First conference semifinals, or conference finals game, is on Tuesday night as we are recording this on the Monday before. So we got the Celtics and the Pacers. Interesting series because we don't know what Kristaps Porzingis is going to do. We don't know if he's coming back, but I think the top storyline for me, it's Halliburton and the Boston defenders. Halliburton, who is Indiana's point guard and floor general, he was publicly pushed to up his aggressiveness against the Knicks, and it worked. He averaged 24 points on 17 and a half shots in the Pacers' 4 victories compared to 17.6 and 11.3 in their 3 defeats. So I like when Halliburton comes out aggressive in the first quarter because that allows, a pass to Nembhard. Now everyone else is freed up on the outside once Halliburton gets going. And I think that might be something that they're trying to look for and exploit with the Celtics. What do you think there?
Yeah, and I think, he has to be aggressive on offense. And I think one of the big keys for Indiana is Siakam because he was kind of non-existent on their losses and he was really big in their wins. And he's actually won a championship. He has a ring. So, he has to show up. But we talked about teams that have players averaging. So in the playoffs, Boston has Tatum at 24 averaging, Brown at 23, Holiday's only averaging 10. He's in the slump. And Derek White is averaging 18. Without Porzingis, that means you got 4 averaging double digits. Indiana has Siakam at 21, Niebrand at 13, Halliburton at 19, Nesmith at 13, Turner at 18, McConnell at 11, and Toppin at 11.
TJ McConnell, yeah.
7 players averaging double figures in the playoffs so far, so they're deep. Remember we talked about Boston being one of the deepest teams in the league? You take Porzingis out, they're not. When you match up player for player against Indiana, Boston is not – Indiana is not overmatched, and Boston is not deeper. So it's going to be interesting. I'll call it right now. I think Indiana wins game number 1. I think Boston has been resting.
Interesting.
They tend to be, especially if Porzingis doesn't play, they tend to be rusty, and they're playing at home. They're a little relaxed. Now, Indiana's a little inexperienced, and they just won a game 7, which was, crazy.
Momentum.
Yeah, but, they didn't have to go play the next day, right? So they have a couple of days to absorb it. They have length. They're their depth. They're athletic. Turner can make threes at the 5 position. I think if I'm coaching Indiana, if I'm on their coaching staff, I'm really trying to we can sneak game 1. Watch. We can get this if we play the right way.
So Boston can send a fleet of defenders with, all defensive candidates, Drew Holiday and Derek White at Halliburton. Then you kind of can cycle through Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Peyton Pritchard to shuffle things up, give them different looks. But if Indiana keeps its pace high, we know that Boston likes to slow things down a little bit. So Indiana's got to control the pace in this game or in this entire series. And I know you were saying earlier how Halliburton likes to just get the inbound and chuck it down the floor. The Celtics half-court defense could choke off Halliburton and whatever offense he tries to initiate there. Do you think that would be a point of their emphasis?
For sure. So it's going to be a battle of, a tempo. Indiana wants up tempo, Boston wants. But here's the problem, though, and I've watched Boston, even though they're winning games, their transition defense is not very good. They tend to argue with the refs, look at the refs, jog back, and they get burned a lot in transition. And that plays right into Indiana's hands. So I'd watch that, and look for, there's going to be, if there's a quick timeout in that game, it's going to be Boston's trying to slow down Indiana. Because you're right. If they go half court, mano a mano, I think Boston has the edge. If they go up and down with Boston's poor transition defense, Indiana could have the edge. Let's run them out of here.
I also like how you were mentioning earlier there, both of the two pesky backup point guards for both of these teams, TJ McConnell and Peyton Pritchard. They're both high energy guys and high impact, and they're good for like a 15 to 20 minute caffeine boost, pretty much, because Pritchard, he's making 42.9% of his three-pointers this postseason and is the Celtics' designated last-ditch guy to race up the court and throw heaves at the end of quarters. And McConnell plays a similar role with Indiana and saw his minutes and contributions rise as he locked in defensively against, who else? Jalen Brunson in that last series.
Yeah, I think Pritchard's more of a shooter-scorer type.
Yeah.
And McConnell is Steve Nash, penetrating guy, and made some tough, drive into the pull-up in the lane and make a shot falling out of bounds. I think he's more the energizer bunny for Indiana than Pritchard is for Boston. So, but that's going to be an interesting matchup, as the series goes on, for sure.
I also think that, Jason Tatum, he's starting to find his groove a little bit more. Obviously, we're still looking for that big breakout game for him. And I think if Nesmith is guarding him, Nesmith always has the task of guarding the best player on the other team. Nesmith can not allow Jason Tatum to have that breakout game. I think the Pacers are in a really good spot, Coach.
Yeah, I think. And my problem with Boston a lot of the time is they go to Tatum, Brown, they go too much one-on-one. They dribble, and guys, that's why I believe, we talked about picking up one of the great point guards in the league, right? Holiday. They picked him up, took him from my Bucks, but he hasn't been playing like he did with the Bucks because Tatum and Brown go one-on-one so much. What is Holiday going to do? Be over there a spot-up shooter? And they don't have movement. They don't have flare picks and double staggers and stuff like that to get the ball moving. And I think that hurts Holiday's game.
Okay, Coach. Let's move on to the Western Conference Finals. By the way, is this the one you're more excited about? Which conference finals are you more excited about?
I think they're both going to be good.
No, but you have to pick one.
I have to pick one? Why do I have to pick one?
Because I want to know.
I think Boston and Indiana is going to be a good series, but could be a little boring. I think Dallas and Minnesota is going to be exciting one way or the other.
Yeah. So okay,
you got Anthony Edwards on one hand, and then you got Luka on the other with Kyrie. Oh wow, that's fireworks waiting to happen right there.
Yeah. So actually, the Timberwolves were 3-1 against Dallas, but Doncic missed 2 of those games, while Kyrie Irving sat out 3 so far this year in the regular season. So naturally, all of our eyes are going to be on the focus of the young Doncic and Edwards. What
was that early in the season? Did Dallas make their move and pick up Lively and PJ?
Yeah,
maybe they weren't even on the team yet.
No, which is cool. The PJ Washington was not on the team yet for 2 of those games. So obviously we're all going to be focusing on Doncic and Edwards because Why the hell not? The Mavericks guard finished third in voting for the Kia MVP this year, while Edwards received the seventh most votes for the award. So we're going to expect both players to generate plenty of these eye-popping plays in this matchup. Doncic averages 24.8 points, 7.3 rebounds, 7.7 assists, and 1.4 steals in clashes with Edwards. But the Timberwolves star produces similar numbers in the head-to-head battles against Doncic: 23.9 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 4.7 assists, and 1.1 steals per game, the NBA's leading scorer this season. So it's expected Edwards will guard Doncic's co-star in Kyrie Irving, which is also a difficult challenge, while Jaden McDaniels starts on Doncic. How do you think those two play out?
Yeah, I don't know if they go with that because who is Conley going to guard? I think Conley guards Kyrie, and then
Really?
Edwards and McDaniels guards Luka. Yeah, I think to start with, because you're going to wear people out, and
Yeah.
or
Okay.
you're going to, it's going to be interesting because Anthony Towns is going to be huge, right? So how does Anthony Towns and Gobert go up against P.J. Jones and Lively and Gafford? That's going to be, I think Luka, Kyrie, Edwards are going to be who they are, but the other guys are going to be the question mark, and that's what's going to be interested. And then Naz Reid is going to come in huge there because he's longer and more athletic than Gobert. He's not longer, but he's more athletic than Gobert, and probably matches up better against P.J. Jones and Gafford.
Yeah, so Gafford and Washington have not played yet against this Timberwolves team so far this season. I'm going to expect that the rookie Derek Lively and Gafford are going to take turns on Rudy Gobert. PJ Washington's likely going to draw Cat as the assignment. But you don't think Doncic guards Conley and then Derek Jones Jr. would take Edwards?
Well, if you're Minnesota, Conley has to guard somebody, right?
Yeah.
So, he can't guard Luka. He's too small. He can't guard P.J. Jones. He can't guard Lively. He can't, so the only guy out there is Kyrie, right?
Yeah. I guess so.
And Conley, no one's going to stop Kyrie, but Kyrie is kind of like the backseat guy now till the second half. So we'll be cool there, and then we'll see what happens. But Luka's the guy. He averages 27, 10, and 9, almost a triple-double in the playoffs. So
how do you think the size works out in this series? Because obviously Dallas dominated the paint against OKC in the last round. Minnesota's bigs, Gobert, Towns, and then they also had the sixth man of the year, Naz Reid. They're way more daunting challenge. They have secured, so the Mavs have secured at least 14 offensive rebounds in 4 games so far in the playoffs. I'm going to look for Minnesota to limit those precious second chance scoring opportunities in this series. Do you think that's key?
Here's the problem with the two big situation in Minnesota, right? They worked okay against Denver because you have Luka, right?
Yeah.
But now Gobert is going to have to guard Lively or P.J. Jones or Gafford. What do they always do? They pick, roll, dunk.
Yeah. And
that's what Gobert's bad at, guarding pick and rolls. So, and that's what only Gobert does is pick and roll, right? What's the over-under on 200 pick and rolls for the game for the teams? I mean, it's going to be pick and roll against pick and roll because that's what both teams do. An
incredible amount, yeah. Both teams are pretty good defensively as well. So, Coach, it's time to make your pick. What do you think? Mavs in 7?
I think Mavs in 6.
Mavs in 6?
Yeah, I think.
So they get it done at home then?
If they don't get it
6.
done, I think Minnesota wins in 7. Yeah.
Oh.
I just think watching Kyrie and Luka play together now with those 3 bigs and what they're doing, Hardaway Jr. He was the star. He was the star last year. He hardly gets to play anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he averages 6 points and 2 rebounds in the playoffs. Last year he's averaged that's the sign of what Dallas has upgraded. It's gonna be interesting. If I could talk to Chris, I texted him last night. I just texted him.
Chris Finch.
Chris
the
Finch,
listeners and watchers out there, Chris Finch.
I text him, wow. That's all I text him.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to bother him. But I would, and I've told him, I've texted him, and I talked to him last summer. Chris, you need to get a 2-3 zone and put those 2 big guys on the baseline, and that would be interesting if you would throw that at Dallas. Because when I watch Dallas sometimes, and most teams in the NBA, you throw a weak zone at them, they freak out. And it bothers them.
Yeah.
And if you have a zone with Luka and Cat down low, and I would put Anthony Edwards at the point and then put your other guys at the wing. That would be interesting to see what that would do with Dallas's offense. No more pick and rolls, buddy.
I went on record this last weekend, this last weekend, and I posted some videos where I'm talking about how I thought Denver would win based on experience because playoff experience matters. And now everyone's throwing it back in my face. And I think as skilled as Irving and Doncic are, they are the ones that also possess the experience on this stage that Minnesota lacks. So is that something you think comes to fruition in this series, Coach? Is the experience? Because I don't want this thrown back in my face again, so I'm putting it on you.
Well, I think we saw what experience did with OKC, right? In Dallas, both experience on the floor with the players and the coach. Yeah. Well, both of these coaches are really, really good, and all the players are really solid players. Minnesota is a veteran team. I mean, those guys, they're veterans. They haven't won championships, but they're veterans. And Dallas has been there before, but who hasn't? Lively, B.J. Jones, and Gafford have been on bad teams. So that's going to be interesting. But, I think experience is less important in this series as it might be in the Boston-Indiana series.
Coach, have I just been like a wealth of just fun facts for you going throughout this playoffs? Because if you go back and you look at our text chains, I'm texting you some incredible stuff. Like, okay, we're talking about Nikola Jokic, right? He's leading the 2020s. I texted you this. He's leading the 2020s in playoff rebounds, playoff assists, playoff double-doubles, playoff triple-doubles. And then I texted you the other day, teams are 20-0 all time, went up by 15-plus points at the half in a Game 7. It's like, I'm just a wealth of knowledge. The Nuggets were 0-12 when being held under 100 points this season. Come on, am I like the stat knowledge for you? Just come on, give me something here.
Here's what a lot of people don't understand, though. And I told people I was watching the game with, I said, listen, if I'm Minnesota, I'm down 15. I'm happy as hell at halftime.
Yeah.
What? You're crazy. I'm like, no. My best player went 1 for 7, has 4 points. We're in great position. I mean, we can't play any worse, right?
You also said earlier, a couple weeks ago when we first recorded our playoff bracket, you said that not only does the Timberwolves have the size, but they also... Oh, hey, look at that. Hey, so Minnesota has the size. That was fun. I got to figure out how we do that more. Minnesota has the size, but also you said Jokic looks tired. Is that something you think played into effect?
Yeah, I think he looked tired last night. Not only, but he had to score 35 points and get 16 rebounds. He does that, but he had to keep his team even in the game. And I saw him. Here's how you tell when a guy's tired, right? I'm gonna tell all the listeners, really, if you're watching a game and you see one of the players do this, they look up at the scoreboard. They're looking at the time. How much time is it till the next time out? That means they're tired. When they're looking at the scoreboard, they're looking at the time when the next time out is. They're tired. And, and he was looking up the board a lot. We're up 15, but damn, I'm tired. How many times can I have to score?
Coach.
Here's another thing, Jess.
Yeah.
What is the record of in an NBA playoff series when the home team plays Game 7 at home and they lose? It can't be that many times.
I can find that out for you in just a second.
And both
which would be interesting.
Both home teams lost. That blew my.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So Indiana beat the Knicks, who were really beat up and had no more players left. But Indiana went in against the champions in Denver, in altitude, with the defending champions, with the Joker and Murray, and beat them. That's why I picked Denver, because of Game 7 in Denver. And boy, Minnesota just flip-flopped it. I played that. I played that game back. I watched it with friends here. and then I text Chris Finch, and then when I went to bed, Linda was going to sleep, and it was a replay, and I watched the last 4 minutes because it got me all. I could feel what they felt on the bench. I could feel what the locker room was going to be like. I could feel what that flight back to Minnesota was going to be like. And Minnesota plays at home, by the way, on Wednesday. But it was just, that's one of those wins that don't come along. I played in the NBA for 12 years. I coached in the NBA for 10. Those wins, we had them in Dallas when I was coaching. We beat Phoenix in Phoenix for in the West Finals to go to the finals against Miami. But those wins like that, those are special, just special.
Here's another stat for you. Ready for this one? I'm just so quick with it. So, home teams in a game 7 all time have a 742 win percentage. They're 112 and 39 in game 7s.
There's a reason for that.
Away teams are now 39 and 112, which means they have a 258 win percentage. That's away teams. And that has gone up by 2, by the way. So home teams were really 112 and 37 going into Sunday night.
It's mind-boggling. I mean, and that's why you want game 7 at home. So
home teams have won 75% of every game 7 ever in any playoff.
And then, you add the altitude in Denver in that crowd, but Minnesota, that's one of those wins. You can't explain. It's something special, and it's just game 7s are something special. But if you can win on the road, if you can win at home, it's great. If you can win on the road, I mean, I'll tell you at halftime here, people are saying, well, Minnesota's done and all. I said, I put in a bet. I put in a bet, a 3-way bet. I said, Minnesota wins this game. Anthony Edwards scores over 16 points and one other one, and I won all 3 of them.
Wow. What do you got for, now that we're talking about betting, what do you got for our listeners out there? You're a resident Vegas man. What do you think? Under on points, rebounds, assists for Anthony Edwards or something?
Well, I would do over on everything for Anthony Edwards in game 1 because he had such a bad game. And he's
going to bounce back.
The kind of guy who's going to really, and he's at home. I don't know what the over under his points for him, but I would go over on that. I think that's, and I think over on points in general, because I think both teams are going to be all hyped up and start running a little bit more. But the series, I mean, I think Boston, it depends on Porzingis. If Porzingis is healthy, I think Boston probably in 6, maybe. If he's not, maybe it goes 7 and Indiana might win. Who knows?
Indian 7. Wouldn't it be a crazy thing? And I texted you this. Wouldn't it be crazy to have Minnesota, though, in Minnesota and Indiana? So you have Minneapolis and then Indianapolis in the NBA Finals. It's 2 not humongous market teams. Yeah. Which is nice. It'd be good for the sport.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good for the NBA, I don't think. So
no, it'd be horrible. They would not make a lot of money. So they would make more money if, obviously, Boston makes it and then Dallas makes it, which actually is the matchup that you have picked. So maybe you and Adam Silver have been in cahoots. I don't know. Just saying. Could be a thing.
No. There's no script. Wait, there's no script here that I'm reading.
Oh, I see nothing.
Did you see that, man?
Oh, well, we'll pretend. I couldn't read your handwriting.
Yeah, but I'll say this is 2 good matchups that are going to be interesting to watch. And the 7-game series, we talk about this, right, Jess?
Yep.
7-game series there's ups and downs. You got to stay level. You can't get too high when you win or too low when you lose. Even if you lose by 30, it doesn't matter. Play the next game. But it's hard to do as a coaching staff to get your players to understand that. And that's where you talk about experience comes in because they've been there before. Okay, we won game 1. That's great, but we got to get to game 2. That's just the mentality. So it's going to be interesting. Both series could go long, and it's going to be interesting.
All right, welcome back to the Sports Scene, everyone. For our final segment, Coach Mo and I have never actually really played a game before on the show together, so I thought it was about time that we would run one of our popular games, and this is one I think you guys will all like. So don't go anywhere because Coach Mo and his corner are on the Sports Scene. Coach, I want to do something kind of fun with you here. We usually don't play any games together because I usually have Max and Alvin on for that, but I just wanted to play a game with you this week because we're having a lot of fun. I don't want to just hang up on you because I got to keep you awake because you have a show that you're doing tonight as we're recording this. So I'm doing my job in keeping you awake along with that Coca-Cola that you just took a sip of. That's got some caffeine in it. So me and Coca-Cola are a match made in hell. Okay, here we go. We're going to play a game called Start Bench Cut, where I'm going to give Coach Mo 3 players in the NBA, maybe 3 coaches, 3 others in the NBA world. He's going to start one, he's going to bench one, he's going to cut one like he's the GM or head coach of that team. And who better than to actually have a guy who was literally in the NBA for over 20 years to do this with. So, Coach, you're a big man, obviously, standing at 7 foot, played for the Milwaukee Bucks, coached bigs, Coach Dirk Nowitzki. Let's start you off with some bigs that we saw in this playoff so far. So, you're starting 3 people that I'm going to mention. Then you're going to start one, you're going to bench one, you're going to cut one.
And this is, we're playing the game tomorrow, right? Something like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. Not we're waiting for next year.
No.
Okay.
Nikola Jokic, assuming everyone's healthy. Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Joel Embiid. Start one, bench one, cut one.
Man. I'm starting the Joker.
You are?
Yeah, I'm starting the Joker.
I mean, he's pretty much the best player in the world.
Yeah, and I'm going to have Giannis coming off the bench because he's different. And Embiid, even though he's probably, in my mind, a more skilled, better player than Giannis, but Giannis fits in with the Joker better when I bring in the Joker as a big that can score just like Embiid, but Giannis is going to come in and be athletic and run the floor and do all that. So that gives me a 1-2 punch at the center position. And I'm sorry, Embiid, but I got to cut
you. don't want shooting, though.
Well, nah, I mean, Joker hits threes, Giannis.
Not last night, he didn't.
Yeah.
He went like 2 for 10, right?
Yeah, but he still scored 36 points, and he made threes to win games. So, that's, Embiid, if I was just keeping 2 best players, it would be Embiid and the Joker in my mind. I think to this day, Giannis is the least skilled MVP of the league ever. Skills, shooting, free throws, dribbling, passing, skills, right?
Huh?
But if I'm thinking as a GM, and guess what? I can play them both together if I want.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, let's go with guys.
Hey, Embiid, I'm sorry, but I'm sure if there's anything I can do to help, make some calls for you. Someone will pick you up.
You got other teams in the league. I would take Embiid.
Yeah, that's when when you cut players. Which is the worst job in coaching. By the way,
he'll come and start for my team when I go back and do this. Okay,
and probably kick my butt. But hey.
That's okay. Coach, let's go with some superstar scorers now. Start, bench, cut. These guys still actually are in the playoffs too, which is interesting. Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum.
Wow.
I'm not easy on you.
No, that's tough. I got to start Luka because he wouldn't be good off the bench. And
why wouldn't he be good off the bench?
Because he started since he was 16 years old. He's
never in Europe.
The bench before.
And then he's only ever known professional basketball, which is cool.
He started playing at 15. He was MVP of the World Cup, which is all pros, former NBA guys at 18, I think. That's why.
Yep.
But he's only 25. Man, that's tough. Because the one thing I don't like about Luka is he pounds the ball too much.
Yeah.
But so does Tatum, and it depends on the referee. And if Tatum can keep pushing off every time he drives like he does now,
you're so right.
Thing. But you know what? Okay, if I had to play tomorrow, I would start Luka, bring Tatum off the bench, and cut Anthony Edwards.
Why would you cut Anthony Edwards?
Because I know I can depend on Luka and Tatum better than Anthony Edwards, who was 1 for 7.
Can you this playoffs? Have the Celtics been able to count on Jason Tatum in this playoffs?
Pretty much. I mean, what's the average?
In the first round, didn't he average like only 20 points per game, and they would win by 20?
He's averaging 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's what he's averaging. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, that's interesting. Coach, let's go with some.
I mean, you're not giving me easy. I mean, come on.
No. That's the point, though. It's supposed to be. Why would we be doing this if I just was going to make it easy?
Then why you question me why I would cut Anthony Edwards?
Well, because it's for the dialogue, Coach. I have to disagree.
And
Let's
Anthony
go with
Edwards is less experienced, and
Yeah.
he's younger. So there you go.
True that. Okay. Time for some big role players. Al Horford, Oz Reed, and Daniel Gafford.
I mean, I start Gafford, bring Naz Reid off the bench because he's really good at it. Sixth man of the year. And then
That's where I would have him, yes.
And then I'm sorry, Horford. I played with your dad in Milwaukee, but I got to send you home. I'm tired of seeing Al at my games anyway.
That's funny. Wait,
that would be hard because Horford has been a guy that's come off the bench and produced big time, and that would be really hard.
but he stepped up for them significantly.
Sure. Yep. So is Reed, right? And
Naz Reid, I would. That's the only thing. I mean, I don't know if I could start Naz Reid because he's so good as a sixth man that I would have to bring him off the bench, right?
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of those times it's being able to accept that role, which he has. I mean,
yep.
He knows he could be starting on other teams. I mean, when we went to the final, when we were really good in Dallas, we had Jerry Stackhouse, who was an all-star, and he was coming off the bench for us, and he was sixth man of the year. But he was just like another starter.
True. Very true. All right, Coach, this is going to get interesting, all right? And let's remember, everyone, this is just for fun. Nobody needs to throw any shots at us or anything. Yeah. We're just having a good time together.
Yes. Everybody.
And there's a reason I call you Coach Mo, because you're so connected in the coach world. So I'm going to give you 3 Western Conference coaches now.
And I can answer it honestly now because I'm not looking for a job anymore. So I'll tell you the truth.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
If I was looking for a job, I would not answer any of these questions about a coach.
Okay, then let's go with Chris Finch, Mike Malone, Jason Kidd.
So what am I doing? Head coach, assistant
You're
coach,
starting one, you're benching
coach?
one. Like if this guy's your assistant and you're cutting one.
Okay. Well, Chris Finch is my head coach because he has been.
Okay.
Twice. I've seen we won a championship in the G League. We coached in the Olympics. In the World Games, we beat Spain once. So, and he's where he is. And so Chris is the head coach. I think Mike Malone is his assistant, and Kid has to go, I guess.
Actually, I mean, I guess Malone has the championship. Oh, yeah, 2 guys that have won championships, and then you're cutting Jason Kidd. That would make a lot of sense. Okay. Now we'll go into the Eastern Conference. Tom Thibodeau, Joe Mazzulla, Rick Carlisle.
Rick's my head coach.
Rick's your head coach.
Thibodeau is my defensive assistant. And
yeah, of course he is.
Gotta go. Yep, there you go.
You're a big defensive head, aren't you?
That was easy right there. That was easy.
That was easier. Why would Joe Mazzulla go? They're the number 1 seed this year.
Has he won anything? Didn't he lose in the second round last year? I mean, he's got a great team. He's coaching. That's great. But I know what the other guys do.
Yeah, that's fair. Rick Carlisle, champion.
Yep.
So,
yep.
I would definitely say I agree with you there.
And a defensive guy that, if he's on the bench, those players are listening to him to play defense. I'm telling you that.
100%.
He's got a voice like this. He's telling you to play defense like that.
Is that how he sounds?
Yes. Have you
no
heard
way.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
All right, my man. We need to get him to drink some water. All right, Coach. Here we go. Start, bench, cut. And we are going NBA ref version now. Let him have it. Because you don't care. You're not trying to get hired anymore.
That's true.
Mark Davis.
No one can give me a technical either.
Nope, exactly. This is perfect. They can't take it out on you. Start, bench, cut. Mark Davis, Tony Brothers, Scott Foster.
Ooh. Tony Brothers first.
You're starting Tony Brothers.
Yeah. Mark Davis, and then Scott. I'm sorry, but sometimes you think you're the show out there, and I don't like that. So.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay.
If you ask players and coaches in the NBA right now about Scott Foster.
Yeah. Okay, Coach.
I mean, he's a good ref, but sometimes, and there was great refs when I played.
Yep.
Dick Bavetta and Earl Strom and all these guys, and what the great refs have in common, just like in boxing, when you don't notice a ref, that means they're doing a good job. when you notice them too much, that's a problem.
True that. Okay, Coach, your final one, and this is the one that everyone's been talking about. All right, start, bench, cut. The guys that didn't make any noise in the playoffs because they either didn't make it, got swept, or got gentlemen swept. Start, bench, cut. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. This is the one everyone's been talking about on TV and everything now too, because this is the first year where we just haven't seen any of them make any noise in the playoffs, or even get past the first round since when I was a little kid.
I'm starting KD because he's almost 7 foot, can score from anywhere on the floor.
Yep.
And
he's great defensively if you get him in a great defensive scheme.
Yeah. But he can, I mean, he's like elite, forget about it scorer. He's like a taller Ice Gervin, right? He's just... Yeah,
he is. He's one of the best scorers. Top 5 probably of all time.
Oh, it's probably
can
more
score at every level.
Yeah. And then I'm bringing Steph off the bench because he's going to... Someone play a zone against me, forget about it. I need scoring, forget about it. I need to make a run, right? We're down by 15. I need someone to hit some threes, forget about it.
Bringing the greatest three-point shooter of all time off the bench. I like that.
And LeBron, I'm sorry, you're getting older anyway, and maybe rather than play with your son, maybe you should coach him somewhere, maybe overseas or something. So that's my call.
Or maybe LeBron becomes a head coach at a college so Bronny can play another year, get a little bit better.
I know when you have superstars like that, it's tough ego-wise, and it seems like KD is willing to do stuff. I know Steph Curry wants to be coached, and LeBron wants to be the coach, so that's the problem.
That is true, Coach. Hey, you are the best coach that we've had on this show. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm the only coach you've had on this show.
Not true. I've had different coaches on, just the only NBA coach on this show so far. Until until you decide to bring on someone else with you and we can pick their brains as well. Hey, Coach Mo, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you. Let's talk again in 2 weeks after these conference finals wrap up, and then we'll give our preview to the NBA finals, right?
It's going to be a great finals with Boston and Dallas going at it.
Oh, all right. He gave us his picks. Stay tuned, everyone, because he will be back on this show. Wow, what a fun time I had talking to Coach Mo on this episode. He's just got everything going on in the NBA world up in his mind. And don't worry, because we're going to break down a lot more footage in the future when we talk to Coach Mo, specifically after the NBA finals. We're going to have him on pretty much every week breaking down footage as long as the finals are going on of what's going well and what's going wrong for either teams that make the NBA finals. So a big thank you to Coach Mo. Also, do want to throw out a thank you, as always, to Alvin and Max. A lot of times doing a show like this gets kind of hard, and Max and Alvin always push me to be better and be the best version of myself, not just for this show, but just in reality. I just want to thank Max and Alvin for, always believing in me. And Max specifically, Max has been with me for a while now. We've known each other since college, and he was the one who said, Jesse, if you can get a radio show, not just on iHeartRadio, but just on any radio station, that I will come on and I'll help you out and we'll do whatever we can. And he stayed true to his word. And that's one thing Max always does. He does stay true to his word no matter what. So big thank you to Max. He's always had my back with everything. So thank you, Max. Alvin, my buddy here in Orlando, Alvin and I have gotten just the chemistry of a lifetime. So big thank you to Alvin as well. Just want to spread some kindness around the world in these days because I don't think it happens enough. So big thank you to those two. And hey, thank you all for tuning in today to the show on iHeartRadio, iHeartRadio Podcast, and YouTube. Do you want a little more sports madness in your life? Well, tune back in on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can subscribe to us on Sports Fluent Media on YouTube. And please rate, comment, and download the show everywhere else. And next week, we're going to be back with a lot more sports talk. So stay tuned. Until then, you all stay happy, stay healthy, and we'll see you right back here on the Sports Scene with Jesse O, presented by First Bet and Sports Fluent Media.